This is TWiT.
Back in the day, you would say open source to someone and they would have no idea what you were talking about. Free software, if you say that, they would assume you meant like, oh, I don't have to pay for it. It's free. We all know that's obviously not the case. And we also now are in this situation where you don't have to explain it quite as much anymore. Open source software has become kind of this, the default for so many things. If you're going to develop something, you're going to start with an open source base. Right. You might then keep it internally and keep it proprietary, but you're going to start with open source. You're going to start with an open source programming language, open source libraries, open source operating system, most likely. So it's just become the way that we do business.
And it's also interesting because it's sort of shifted in the business models now. Pretty almost, well, I'm biased because I've got blinders on. I'm only in the open source companies related stuff. But it used to be that a company would have an idea for like a project, even like a web project or something like that, or maybe a proprietary software on desktop or something. And they'd go out and they'd purchase or license closed source libraries and then build on top of that and produce their own closed source ultimate widget, ultimate thing. And now I think, I like the way you said it, I think it's now more the default that you're going to start with open source. You're going to start with, if you want a website, you're going to start with Apache or Nginx or something. You're not going to buy, stuff from somebody else to do that. And I really like that transition is happening. And I also like the transition that's been happening over the years that people are going all in on open source, where instead of saying we're going to have a proprietary product, as we've seen on this show over the last 11 years, many companies are saying we're all open source, top to bottom. We put everything out there. We develop our work in GitHub. We take pull requests. It's not just the list of the internal company people that are contributors. Look at all these other contributors that are outside the company. Can you talk more about that sort of transition as well?
Well, there are some companies that do that, but there aren't really nearly as many as you would think. There are a lot of companies who would like to be more open, but they just don't know how. And I think a lot of that is our fault in free and open source software. A lot of the culture of free and open source has been very much, screw the man. We don't want these big companies in our free and open source software. And so we've kind of pushed companies to the outer limits of the community. And because of that, they aren't comfortable. They don't know how to interact within a free and open source software culture, within that sort of ecosystem. And a lot of them also don't know how to make money out of it. So that's a completely separate issue that free and open source software has nothing to do with. So it's something that I think we have done a disservice to ourselves in free and open source software by not embracing these companies, not showing them how to do it properly over all these years. But on the other hand, it means that I have a job, because that's what I help companies do. I understand business really, really well, and I understand free and open source software really, really well. And so I'm able to be that glue to help the businesses be successful with free and open source software. And not just to be successful, but to understand what it is and to do it right in a way that's good, not only for their bottom line, but also for the community, because that's very important. You can't be participating in free and open source software as a company if you're not going to get something good out of it. But you also can't participate if you're going to screw up the community, because that's not going to be good for anyone. So how do you do both of these things? Well, you get me in there and I help translate.